It's months into the new year, so let's recap everything you may have missed over the first quarter and what you can expect in 2024. Timestamps below for your favorite mods, and let's begin with the Stars Above mod. With a massive 2.0 update, this could probably be its own video. Beginning with bosses, we have two new fights, the Spear, the Act of the Alchemy, and will require a couple requisites. Needing to defeat the World Evil boss, obtaining the Massaline Draught item from the Astrologian NPC, and have it be nighttime. As for the attacks, I'm not going to even try to pronounce half these names. We have moves which launch a slow moving grid that alternates between vertical and horizontal shots, moves that cast stars around the arena and explode after a short time, and the Ringmaster's Will, which players are given instructions to move in a certain direction or stay still to avoid taking massive damage. A pretty simple boss all things considered, but does give you a good intro into the rest of the bosses within this mod. And then we have Asphodine and Eridani. These are your two star fairies that you pick between at the start of your playthrough. And now, you can challenge them in a friendly duel. They use attacks from prior bosses you have defeated, so every attack you've learned up to pre-Plantera will be tested. However, once you finish the game and have defeated every single boss, you can re-challenge them again into a super boss format. It features similar attack patterns as before, however the cooldown between each move is significantly reduced. Along with these new additions, other boss changes you can expect to see is Diasakori, which has been tier shifted to pre-Skeletron, but obviously HP and damage has been scaled down to compensate. And in Diasakori's place in progression, we have the reworked Penthesilea. As a post-mech boss, the new fight revolves around Arcana, repeating previous attacks she's performed, and will also coat you in a certain color paint, either red, blue or yellow, and you'll need to dodge her attacks by navigating to the corresponding paint color. As you may have noticed, her voice is no longer Gwen, and now has AI voice acting instead. Next minor reworks include Tsukiyomi, with an updated sprite, and the Arbitration, which is fought in the Catabasis subworld, with much faster and more punishing attacks. This specific subworld is only accessible by staying too long within an anomaly planet. But since we're talking about subworlds, 5 new cosmic voyages have been added, including Celestia, Ultra Plant, the Dreaming City, Faint Archives, and the Fallen Theraland. You can already see how massive this update is, and to finish off the recap, we have heaps of weapon updates aimed at visual improvements, but I'll just showcase some right now, including the Mercy, Hawkmoon, Light Unrelenting, and the only thing I know for real. With all of these changes, it is definitely worth another playthrough, but we do have some upcoming spoilers to show you, with a new Neon Veil biome. Yes, a biome within the actual world of Terraria. A first for this mod, and it's going to be super exciting to explore. Furthermore, new spoilers of upcoming weapons include the Star Phoenix Funnel, the Candied Sugar Ball, and the Cloak of the Arbiter. Now, let's move on to the Spirit mod, which has been updated to 1.4.4 of Mod Loader and contains hundreds of new changes. I'll be highlighting the key things you can try, beginning with reworked weapons. We have the Cactus Staff, a mage weapon that erupts miniature cactuses from the ground, the Shadow Break wand, which fires a miniature bolt to damage enemies, and you are able to charge up a Shadow Flame bolt to break enemy armor and deal some splash damage. And the Star Charger, a ranged weapon that now fires positively charged arrows with the left click, and negatively charged arrows with the right click. Once opposite arrows contact each other, they will explode, dealing some damage. Some nice early game options, and to go with that, we have one new weapon in this update, the Rod of Dooms. This just summons a miniature sand soldier to ram at enemies. To go with these weapon additions, we have a look at the newly reworked glyphs. These are items which can be applied to weapons by right-clicking and provide special effects. These can include the Frost Glyph, which attacks build ice on enemies, slowing them down, Radiant Glyphs, which charges weapons for extra damage, or maybe the Chaos Glyph, which periodically switches between every single glyph in the game. This update is live, but a mod that is in its third beta is the Shadows of Abaddon that includes both Decree and Jensen bosses. Keep in mind that both will be reworked in the future, so in the meantime, we do have some spoilers for what Decree could potentially look like. We have a move in which icicles will erupt from the ground towards the player, a leap attack which will shoot ice on impact, various melee claw attacks, and a ranged attack of some kind which will converge outwards. Keep in mind this is currently being worked on, but so far, such a huge difference from the current Decree. And I also can't wait for the Jensen rework as well. Along with these upcoming changes, we have weapon reworks to Casey, a true mode exclusive melee weapon which has a charging mechanism. Fully charged bats can be released to reflect enemy projectiles, dealing massive damage to enemies. And the Cerulean Cyclone. This is another melee relic weapon in which every 5th swing throws the sword towards the cursor and makes it spin in place for 2 seconds, creating a cyclone. Cyclones can home onto targets, and each successful hit extends the duration for a max of 4.5 seconds. Apart from that, we have some structure improvements, and that's all the major changes. So be sure to check out the Discord server if you want to try out this mod. It is not on the Steam Workshop. And now let's take a look at Remnants, which seems to always be giving some drastic world generation changes. So let's look at the 1.5 Ancients Ground update with the new granite caves. This is the narrow deep tunnel, big enough to fit your mod. Exploring further down, a new structure has been added to this biome in the little granite houses. Along with being furnished with tables, chandeliers, you can expect the occasional chest to give you some decent loot. Within this biome, you may also notice it connects to mine shafts that take you to other areas of the world. With so many updates to biome generation, I just love going back and exploring what changes this mod has made. And another new structure I love to see is the Forgotten Tombs. These are the replacement to vanilla spider caves, with one large structure as the main entrance. Along with a complex network of paths below, you will find spider chests to give you the typical loot, and reaching the bottom layer, you will even uncover some evil biome chests. Locked of course, but still a cool addition. Furthermore, we have a brand new structure called the Whispering Halls. Like other structures, which mainly have chest loot and hazardous mobs, this structure works a little differently. As you explore through the spooky area, you'll run into the Warden, a fast moving cube which will crush and instantly kill you. This is a hell of a labyrinth, and if you manage to make your way all the way to the center, you'll be awarded with 3 altars. The left altar is the Essence of Might, and right clicking it grants the player 20% max HP and a 10% damage boost. The middle altar is the Essence of Endurance. It grants 20% max HP, 20% run speed bonus, and a 10% reduction in damage dealt. And the third rightmost altar is the Essence of Focus. It grants 10% damage increase, a 20% run speed increase, but reduces your max HP by 20%. So you have 3 options here, and it's important to note you can only have one of these altars active at once, and you can cancel all the effects by simply right clicking on the altars. You can check out all the other changes in this update, including changes to the evil biome caverns and a new obsidian layer. So now let's move on to not necessarily content mods, but cool updates, such as the Meek mod. This was most well known for its aesthetically beautiful Empress of Light boss. But now, we have new bosses that are playable on this version, in the Enchanted Sword. It has very similar attacks to the Empress of Light by firing telegraph swords at the player in various patterns. It contains multiple phases which will make the fight significantly harder and more bullet hell like. And if you want to see bullet hell, you also gotta check out the Rainbow Rod boss fight. Now, a little warning, this is not fully fightable right now in 1.4.4, as I had to use cheats to spawn it in. But here is just a little teaser of the first part of the fight. It is quite insane. Now if you want a boss similar to that, but is actually playable, check out the U mod. It is a small side project made by Dom, and features a boss where you literally fight yourself. Like yeah, it's you. It has some crazy attacks, like this one right here, where the components of the Terrablade merge together to create this explosion. It's just so cool. Onto the spooky mod. We have a completely new biome called the Spider Grotto. This is what it looks like fully revealed and contains various passageways and tunnels. Exploring into the biome, we can see it has a very unique background that adds to the atmosphere and definitely lives up to the spookiness. Like other biomes within this mod, you'll be rewarded with chests as you explore, but you may also notice these artifacts scattered throughout. Once you collect all 4 of these artifacts, you can combine them together at the central chamber and summon a new NPC, the Old Hunter, especially useful for the Ranger class. There are also new enemies, critters, and additional threats that will appear in hard mode, but I have arachnophobia, so I ain't showing you any of it. Now, another super unique thing about this update that I have to talk about is the main menu. It contains art showcasing all the content from the mod with blackened versions of each spooky mod boss. When you defeat that corresponding boss in-game, the respective sprite will reveal itself in the main menu. I love these little details to mods like this. And now let's talk about a mod that's becoming one of my absolute favorites, Lunar Veil. Lunar Veil has released two major updates, the 1.4 Sun and Bloom and 1.5 Prismatic Love. If you recall from a previous recap, this mod was only limited to pre-hard mode content, but now we have some awesome things to showcase in hard mode. New biomes include the Royal Capital, and here you can fight a brand new boss in the Phoenix. To do this, you will need to go up to the Lonely Feeble Sorceress and click on the sparring option. It features pretty straightforward attacks and nothing too crazy. The telegraphed effects make it pretty simple enough, but I do suggest having a dash accessory of some kind. I also really love the Black Hole move because it just looks so sick. Along with the Royal Capital, we also have Catacombs, which have different variants scattered throughout the world. This is the Cavern Catacomb, and you can use a Cursed Shard at any of these mini biomes to spawn in a boss. This is the Cogwheel, and consists of gears that spin around the edge of the arena, which drops damaging shards on the ground. Another Catacomb is the Desert, which will spawn a Serpent, or the Ocean Catacomb, which will spawn a Jellyfish mini boss. Along with these world additions, we have one of my favorite new bosses, Celia, found in the underworld by disturbing the reef. This will cause her to spawn in and begins the barrage of shadow slashes. It gets pretty crazy, but my favorite part has to be in phase 2, which will call a sort of shadow wall of flesh that will force you to move in a certain direction and will even occasionally scream at you. Terrifying stuff. But lastly, I'll showcase Zune, which will be available post Plantera and requires you to talk to her in the Witch Town. Now what's different about this boss is that wings are disabled, making dodging lasers extremely difficult. I highly recommend a mount, double jumps, and the use of a Stelly so you can dash through the projectiles. Similar to other bosses, it features crazy bullet hells and stunning visual effects. There is definitely enough content, both pre-hard mode and hard mode, for a full playthrough. But if you're also a fan of post-Moonlord content, you definitely need to check out the new Master Mode Slime God from Homeward Journey. And similar to Zui, Slime God will inflict you with the Icarus debuff, removing any sort of wings, so having a mount like the Shrimpy Truffle will mitigate some of the pain. You will fight 2 sets of 4 planets, each with a unique ability and AI. The Mercury Slime will dash at the player. The Venus Slime creates a miniature sun to damage you in a radius. The Earth Slime will fire nukes at you, and the Mars Slime will create shockwaves on every slam. After you defeat those first set of planets, 4 more will spawn, and these are much harder in difficulty. The Jupiter Slime fires powerful lasers. Saturn Slime will vertically cover your screen in rings. Uranus, or Uranus Slime, whatever you call it, is pretty tame and summons ice slimes that may affect your dodging. And finally, Neptune Slime, which will cast shadow spikes around the player. After all 8 planets, Slime God re-emerges and will begin casting various different attacks, and at 50%, it will now begin to channel energy of every slime as they get pulled into the core. And after dodging all of those incoming slimes, the last phase is Slime God's true form. They'll be orbiting blobs of slime, lasers. It gets so crazy. I highly recommend you check this out, along with the other Master Mode reworks. And continuing with content mods introducing new boss reworks, the Glory Mod has fully released the Sightseer boss. It is the buffed version of the Eye of Cthulhu, and is pretty tricky to deal with. You will see shadow dashes, teleports, and phases of the fight are extremely fast paced, but this is contrasted with in-between attacks where you have various bullet hell like moves. Balancing the pace from fast movement to precision dodging is pretty essential, and similar to other bosses, this ain't an easy challenge, so be prepared to learn its AI. As for rewards from the Sightseer, we have the Deadeye's Bow for Ranger. It fires a single arrow which will split the further it travels. The Oracle, a melee broadsword which has the ability to teleport you a short distance away from your cursor. The Scopophobia, a mage weapon that creates mini whirlpools, and the Sightseer Staff, which is a summoner weapon that spawns a warper jellyfish. So that was the Sightseer update, and with the Neon Tyrant, Ignited Idol, and other mini bosses, the next glory boss will be the Wall of Flesh. This is the Basalt Barricade, and just looking at the sprite, this thing is absolutely demonic. I do have a bit of preliminary footage of it within Terraria, however, no attacks are being showcased at the moment. That's all I have to showcase for Glory Mod, and now let's talk about some big things within the Fargos Soul Mod. We have various boss visual changes in Eternity Mode, including new lasers for the Wall of Flesh, a respite to King Slime, Skeletron, Golem, Lunatic Cultist, and all 3 mechanical bosses in the Twins, Destroyer, and Skeletron Prime. And you may have noticed, Eternity Skeletron Prime has had some changes, including instantly transforming into phase 2, which is usually the phase where Prime will regrow its limbs and assault you with different attacks. Its changes consist of being a fixed distance away from the player during normal AI, and the arms cannot be damaged while they aren't dealing contact damage. Its phase 3 Dungeon Guardian phase, however, remains untouched. And another boss reworked is Eternity Plantera. Phase 1 spawns a spinning ring of 5 crystal leaves that can block attacks and fire at the player. If I recall correctly, this remains unchanged. Phase 2 at 50% HP, it will become super aggressive, and the crystal leaves will spiral outwards and inwards, and can periodically shoot volleys of planting tentacles. All good so far, but phase 3 is an entirely new phase that has been introduced into Eternity Mode. She will grow dark blue, spawning invulnerable trappers, man-eaters and snatchers. And whilst you try to dodge all these things, Plantera will cycle between 3 attacks. Eternity Mode is definitely still looking insane when I last played it, so what about the Fargos Soul DLC mod? If you recall from previous mod recaps, Eternity Death Mode had unique AI for all pre-hard mode Calamity bosses. And now I'm excited to showcase a hard mode boss, the Eternity Mode Cryogen, which plays off the trapped permafrost NPC. During the first phase, you'll be encased in a frost ring, with chains shooting outwards. It will cast big ice chunks that go stationary and explode after a set duration, further releasing icicles around, and after you survive the beginning phase, permafrost will break free from the shell and dash at the player, leaving behind lingering frozen pores. Most of the moves from this boss are inspired from existing Calamity weapons, such as the Eternal Blizzard, Frosty Flares, or the Absolute Zero. I would say this is more difficult than Infernum's Cryogen, but still very doable. That was all for Fargos, and let's go back in time a bit to one of the oldest mods in Terraria, Exxo Avalon. This has been ported to the latest version of T-Mod Loader, with pre-hard mode content complete. Within this version, you can expect a completely new biome that is an alternative to the World Evil biome. It features a large network of caverns that lead to a center chamber with a bunch of orbs. Similar to Crimson and Corruption, destroying these orbs will provide you with some unique loot, and destroying 3 will summon the Bacterium Prime boss. It fires various bubble attacks, lingering plague clouds, and other random projectiles. It is a nice change of pace from the insanely crazy battles that modded Terraria has. And if you're a fan of mods sticking to vanilla aspects, or maybe want some nostalgia, maybe give this mod a try. And with that being said, for the last mod, let's now talk about Calamity. The Sunken Sea biome expansion update is coming very soon, so we can expect some changes to the Desert Scourge, Giant Clam, and additionally some new re-sprites of potential Sunken Sea critters, including ghost bell enemies, seahorses, and a huge variety of other critters that I'm currently flashing on the screen. We know that this biome will be split and have many distinct sub-biomes, so it's going to be super exciting to explore this in the new update. I can literally talk ages about upcoming changes to Calamity, but I'll leave it off with the finalized Arsenal armor sets, from tier 1 up to 3, along with exo suits that will definitely be a first for Terraria. These will be fully customizable with a UI and special abilities. And if you want a more detailed roadmap of major armor set changes coming in the future, maybe check this video out over here. Goodbye.